Don't quit your day job. That's what I tell a lot of people who are interested in YouTube and interested in becoming monetized and hoping that they can turn this into some way to support themselves and their family. It's not as easy as it looks. A lot of people say, oh, yeah, I can do games, I can do contests, I can do funny skits, I can get on there and teach people how to do things. I know a lot of stuff. There's a lot more to it than just that. I watched a couple of videos the other day, and I think one was a gentleman, a young guy, and one was a young woman. And they were talking about how YouTube, or as they say, the algorithm let them down. They thought that this was going to be something that they could jump on and, start making money. They see a lot of the successful YouTubers who have all the tips and tricks and ways to make your YouTube channel be successful. I just want people to know that it's not that easy. It takes work. It takes dedication. I know you've heard people say that. Again, don't quit your day job. You want to continue to have a way to support yourself, to see if this is something that you want to do for the long haul, to see if this is something that you yourself, whatever your topic is, whatever your niche is, to see if this is something that you can turn around. A lot of people think they can go on and follow people who are successful and see what they're doing and then just copy that and boom, it's going to work. No, it's not going to work. A lot of the areas, the niches that people are real successful in, they're teaching people how to get on YouTube. That's very saturated, and there's a lot of successful people already in that part of YouTube. There are many areas that people are having success, all different kind of areas. I don't even know, I guess YouTube does know, but it's unbelievable the amount of different areas that people can specialize in. Now, there might be something that you're an expert in and you want to see if you can get on YouTube and you can have success teaching people something or showing something or making something, and people will follow you and you'll be able to quit that job that you hate and that boss that you hate. It's possible, but don't quit too soon. The people, the gentleman that I saw and the young lady, they quit their jobs and they said, I'm going to become a YouTuber. And maybe they had a little bit of success at first. There's a couple of people who went viral, a number of people that went viral. And then once it died down, no money was coming in and they had to return to their job, or a job if there was one there available for them. So don't jump the gun and quit your job and just say, okay, yeah, I'm going to go full time into YouTube and see how long it takes me to make it, and I'll have money coming in, and it doesn't really work like that. Now, you might see some stories out there of people who, started and became monetized right away. I was watching a gentleman, a young guy today. He's in the area of teaching people how to get on YouTube and how to make money and how to become monetized and how to, all the good stuff that we YouTubers want to do, how to optimize your channel, all that good stuff. And he seemed to become monetized within, what did he say, 10 weeks. So, I guess it's possible. It depends on what you're teaching. It depends on you as a person. So I'm not saying it's impossible. No, I will never say that because I see people doing it. But I don't want you to put yourself in a situation where, you have no money. The gentleman I saw, and I felt sad for the guy. I think he was living in his car. He had started YouTube. I guess he started part-time at work, and then he had a little bit of success, so he thought he could go full-time, and then he wouldn't have to work anymore, so he quit his job too soon, and things didn't turn out the way he thought it was going to be. And I see videos from people who are, they get resentful, they get upset, they want to blame the algorithm, they're wondering why no one's watching their videos, and I tell people, don't quit too soon. Stay with your job. And even the same thing I tell people, my channel primarily deals with actors, directors, and editors. So I tell young actors the same thing. Do not quit your day job until you start booking work and you're in the union and you are very secure that you're going to get work. Maybe you're on a series. Maybe you have a few movies under your belt. As long as you can keep a small part-time job just in case you need it, I tell actors to do that. And most actors know that. That's part of this business. I'm an editor. So I've been working in editing and production my whole acting career. It's been over 35 years. I never made it to the top of the acting field, So there's always downtime. You know, you go on auditions, you're hoping you get this one, you're hoping you get that one. But I have my steady income that keeps me and my family going. So do not, again, do not quit your day job. Passion doesn't pay the bills. You could be passionate about whatever you're doing. It could be YouTube, it could be acting, it could be singing, it could be dancing. You know, it can be any kind of creative endeavor. They're not guaranteed. They're not guaranteed. No matter if you went to college and you have a degree in that field, it's not guaranteed. I know a lot of people with MBAs working at Starbucks. No job is guaranteed. So you always have to have some kind of way, a survival job, we call it in the acting business, a survival job. Passion is great, but again, it doesn't pay the bills. You always have to keep some kind of idea of how am I going to make money if I don't book this job? How am I going to make money? And then again, let me say I focus mostly on acting. So acting is very sporadic. Even some name actors sometimes have other businesses. And that's smart. If you ever get to that level, do that also. I always tell young people, I meet a number of actors, young actors who are successful, and I kind of sometimes, if they're open to it, I ask them, what else are you doing? And they'll look at me like I'm crazy sometimes. But sometimes they'll look at me and say, oh, yeah, I have a production company. Oh, yes, I have a small business on the side, a restaurant, or I have a small business on the side. You know, I invest in relative small businesses. So there's so many ways. There's so many ways that if you're a creative person and you're having some level of success, that you can do other ventures. Nowadays, it's really noticeable for a lot of prominent actors to have restaurants, to have businesses, to have companies, straight out companies that have nothing to do with the entertainment business. And that is smart. That is so smart. That's something that didn't happen in the past. Actors, singers, dancers, sports athletes, football, baseball, hockey, whatever. They lived their life like it was going to last forever, you know, especially in the sports field. You could be great, top of your game, and then one day you sprain that knee, you break that ankle, and it's all over with. It's all over with. I was watching a documentary the other night about a young guy who was a rising star in high school football, college football, and his last year in college, before he was about to be one of the draft picks, he broke his knee somehow, and that was it. That was the end of his career. And he ended up going into a job, the family business. The family business was a mortuary business, and it's a Netflix documentary called the Mortician. It's really interesting, and it's a sad story. You know, it's a sad story. The breaking of the knee and losing his sports career, he tried to, at the end of the series, tried to say that was the dominoes that led him down the path. He went, no. He became really crazy. You know, if you watch that documentary, you'll see. But again, passion is great. Have passion. Passion drives you. Have dreams. Dreams drive you. But don't let it consume you. Your day job is funding your dream. You have to think of it that way. That's how I went through my whole career of all the production, all the business, everything that I had on the business side. It was always allowing me to pursue my dream of acting. I ran my own business. I still run my own business. So I always had that built-in flexibility that if I did book a job, and when I did book a job, you know, if it was a week shoot, if it was a one-day shoot, if it was a 2-day shoot, 3-day shoot, I run the business so I can give myself some time off. So you want to put yourself in a position where you have that flexibility that you need if you do book work, and you want to be confident in knowing that, yes, I can come back to this job, because most of the time, especially with acting, you might have a week job, a 2-week job. Sometimes people have 6 months job, and then they're back to square one, looking for the next job. That is the nature of the beast, the nature of the business. So you need those survival jobs to fund your dream. And the dream is that you can go for it, you'll have that success, and then you won't have to work at the restaurant. You won't have to work as the video editor. You won't have to work as computer programmer. So, but those jobs are important. Those jobs give you the ability and the flexibility to go for your dream. I was lucky enough, I went to Atlanta during the pandemic, and I lived in Atlanta for 2 years. And about 6 months there, I was hired by a company, and I was hired to run their video production department. and it was great. It was brilliant. I had all this skill that I brought to them, and they were just starting up, so they didn't know anything of how to do it, what to buy, how to build their streaming system they wanted for the councilman. It was a local government in Georgia, in Covington, Georgia, the county government, and so it was a great job. And from the very first day, I told them the truth. I told them why I came to Georgia, because they were asking me, why did you come to this small town from Los Angeles? And I told them, the entertainment business is moving here to Georgia, and a lot of our jobs are coming here. And I said, I've been wanting to come down here and see try my acting luck in Georgia. And they were open to it. You know, they were happy. They were excited about it. You know, I showed them the stuff that I had done in the past, so they were impressed by that. And I was able to do my job for them. And when I had auditions, and when I did book some work, they were happy. They clapped for me when I went off to do it. So it was a win-win situation for both of us. I was very enthusiastic to work for them. I enjoyed working with them. You know, I made some friends there. It was a great opportunity for me. And the bonus, the cherry on top, was that I was able to go on my auditions and I didn't have to make up fake excuses. I didn't have to have my grandmother dying 3 or 4 times as an excuse to get out of work. So that was a rare case, but there are many situations like that. And if you can find one of those, you'll be lucky and you'll stay there and have that day job fund your dream. One thing I've done in the past too, and sometimes I went to this and I had to go back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes my acting wasn't going well, and sometimes my video business was slow. So I had other work that I could do on nights and weekends. So you have to have that flexibility. You have to realize, okay, how can I keep doing what I want to do and still have money to live on? You know, so that's another possibility. You can work on the weekends. You can work on nights. You can work on shifts that people don't want to work on. You can work on jobs that people don't want to work on. That is hard to get people, that the turnover is high. Because if you're really going for your dream, you still need some money to live. And it doesn't have to be that much. You're not trying to get rich. You're still investing in yourself. Think of that job that you go to that you don't like as allowing you, it's an investment, allowing you to keep a roof over your head, to keep your internet on, to keep, you know, if you have a home, your mortgage paid. So you want to look at, or your rent paid, you want to look at those jobs as what they really are. You don't want to get, and here's another thing too, that I always tell actors too, especially when I've been casting projects, and you know, I've done a lot of non-union projects, and they don't pay that much, but I always tell actors, don't get so drawn up in your survival job that you forget that it's your survival job. And I've seen that happen to a lot of actors. They're in jobs that, you know, are placeholder jobs, you know, and sometimes they get so caught up in the job that they forget why they are really here, why they're working there. You know, I tell people, keep that in your mind, keep that in your mind. And sometimes situations change and that job becomes more important than your dream. Now that can happen. And you may have opportunities in that job that, you know, draw you to it. And I'm not saying no one who makes the choice. Those are life choices that people have to make for themselves. And sometimes things pull you in a different direction and you decide, you know what, I'm going to go with this career. I can be promoted in this career. This career is more secure than trying to be a musician. This career is more secure than trying to be, you know, a dancer, than trying to be a guitarist, than being in a rock band, than being an actor, you know, because acting is something that it's so variable. I mean, there are actors who have had lead roles with major stars and then they have a dry period. And so they have to work. They have to live. They have to find some way to support themselves. So that's the situation. And you have to go into this choice with your eyes open and knowing the possibilities of it could be a long haul. You know, you hear the stories of people who come out and they go on 2 or 3 auditions and then all of a sudden they have a series regular. That does happen. That does happen. But it's very rare. Very, very, very rare. You'll see young people who maybe were a child star and then we've all heard the stories. They can't go back to real life because they were so recognizable and they were so popular, and it's just it's a struggle. It's a struggle, and sometimes they end up going down a wrong road. But you have to realize that this career can potentially have pitfalls. I like to tell people this. because I don't want to just tell you all the, the glossy Pollyanna side of the business. There's a downside. There's a downside to trying to make it in this business. It's hard. And so, again, don't let your day job ruin your dream. It's there to support your dream. Keep your ego in check. Sometimes you're in an entertainment business and friends and family, they see the highs and they're, oh, that's great. Yeah, yeah. When are you going to be on this? When are you going to be on that? Why don't you send them your resume? They don't understand the business. Sometimes you'll feel great about yourself. And then sometimes when you're not booking anything and you don't have any work or you don't have any gigs, whatever your creative endeavor is, you're not selling any paintings, you'll feel down. You'll feel low. And you'll start to question your choices. You'll start to question your dream. Those are the times when you need to seek motivation, seek advice, seek people who are in the same position, who work in the same field with you. And even when you're on the high times, don't let your ego, you're having success. You got a part in a movie. You got an audition for another one. Things looking great. Things are going up. And you decide, okay, yeah, I'm doing good now. I don't need this part-time job. And you quit. And then things go the other way. Keep your ego in check, because this business, any creative business, up and down, up and down. I've known some successful musicians who were up top, and I'm not talking about one-hit wonders. I'm talking about people who were recognizable, and that it can end too. That can end too, and it's unexpected, and you go back to real life. So don't let your ego force you to, if you're making money, spend it all. Save some, because you never know when it comes to an end. Everything ends. Young people, everything comes to an end. Your success can come to an end also. So don't spend everything you have like it's going to be there forever, because most likely it's not. Majority of the people who are very successful, making a lot of money and spending a lot of money, end up broke. That's the sad fact. So keep your ego in check. Flexibility is more valuable than fame. It's freedom. Being able to work at this job or work at this career or work in this business and then have the time to go on auditions or the time to enjoy your success. Flexibility is something that you want to work forward. Even when you're not successful, flexibility is something you need, because in the entertainment business, especially talking about the acting business, auditions come out of nowhere. They come out of nowhere. And if you're working at a job and you have responsibilities at that job and you can't take off because you maybe have a one-day shoot, or you maybe have an audition in the middle of the day and your manager won't let you go to that audition because they need you. They have nobody to replace you. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions. And over my long career, I've made some hard decisions. And sometimes when I think back on, I question those decisions. Okay, should I have done this? Should I have stayed there? And then as time goes on, I start to look at some of the decisions I made that turned out to be the right decision at that time. It felt pretty hard at the time. It felt pretty bad when the shoot was over and I didn't have a job to go back to. I didn't have any clients at the time for my editing. So everyone is going to have to face their own decisions and make those decisions with eyes wide open. Eyes wide open. Is this what I really want to do? Do I want to go do something more secure? Do I want to live a life that's normal and not always worrying about, why didn't my agent call? Why didn't my manager call? Why didn't I get that call back? Okay, yeah, I did get the call back, but why didn't I get that role? Again, this is not in this video, but there's so many reasons why things don't go your way. So many that it's unknown. And some of them are so petty that you don't want to know them, honestly. Because I've been on the other side of the table many times making those hard decisions about what actor to cast or what musician to use to do the soundtrack or what special effects artist to use to do these special effects. So I know that this is a hard business, and I want you to realize that you're trying to undertake something that it's not easy. Don't let those stories of someone's overnight success clog your eyes, fog your decision making, clog it up, make it not clear. you want to go in with open eyes that this is something that could be hard. This is something that could be a challenge. I need that flexibility. And so if you have a job that's flexible and maybe doesn't pay as much as one that's not flexible, then you're going to stay with the one that has that flexibility because you may need it. You don't want to miss opportunities when you're working towards your dream. Remember, the job supports the dream. That's what you have to tell yourself when it gets hard. The job supports the dream. Oh, I don't want to go to this job today. Boy, I'm so tired of doing this. I can't stand working with these people. This manager is on my case. I remember jobs I had where I had to go and, they were good paying jobs and the people there were, and especially if they find out that you're in some kind of entertainment business and that you're not fully committed to this job, then sometimes the current employees can resent you for that. But that's just the things you have to go through. That's the things you have to deal with. So go into it with your eyes wide open. So we're all in it with you. And remember, you're not the only one out there juggling jobs if you're in some kind of entertainment endeavor where things are flexible. Things can change. You may get a gig and you have to go away for 2 weeks. You may get a gig and you have to go away for 1 day. You may get a gig and you don't know how long it's going to last because they can't tell you how long it's going to last. They may put you on hold. So remember, we're all in this together. And it's something that you chose. It's something that you chose to do. And you have to figure out, how am I going to do this? I got to work this job to fund what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work this job. I'm going to have the money I need to support myself, to pay my rent, to buy my food, to do what I have to do to live and stay healthy and keep my mind straight, to support and work towards my goal. So that's what you always have to tell yourself. Don't feel alone because nowadays, it's more prominent nowadays, this gig environment. There are a lot of people that aren't even in the entertainment business who work and survive off of this gig society where you have 2 and 3 part-time jobs. You may be driving a car, picking people up, taking them to work. You may be bringing food to people's homes, and you have nothing to do with the entertainment business. But a lot of actors and actresses work in that type of field. And so that's something that you have to get used to and realize, I'm not in this. I'm not alone. I'm not in this. I'm not in this alone. I'm not the only person going through this struggle. And again, like I said, the world has changed since I was young, and there's many more part-time ways to support yourself. So that's a good thing. That is a good thing. That's something that you guys have that, I didn't have when I was young. You had to work with regular jobs and you kind of had to keep your acting a secret. I would never tell anybody at a job interview or maybe even the first 6 months of the job that I had any kind of acting background. And if the job was a high-paying job, I would never mention it. It's still kind of like that nowadays too. Most recently, when I came back from Georgia, I took a few normal jobs that's in management and upper management, and I never mentioned anything about my acting background. And I was hoping they didn't do a Google search on me because you do a Google search on James Adam Tucker, it's going to pop right up. And a lot of times they don't want to hire people who are into the acting business or entertainment business because they know the truth. If you get a job, you're gone. If you get cast in a movie, you're gone. I had to leave a lot of jobs over the years when I did get cast in a role that was a pretty good role that I just couldn't turn down. I just couldn't turn it down. Sometimes I would go to this manager and I'd explain to them and I'd hope they'd understand. But so many times they didn't because they want you to take their job as, this is the most important thing. So, but remember, you're not in this alone. I'll see you on the next one.